Quick question on the creating a sense of security for the public on AI. There's all the fear that's out there, and are there requirements that we can place in the system that would give people a sense of security, kill switches, always having a person in the system? What are some things that we can do to give the public a sense of security that we're not going to create, the Terminator or something like that? Anyone? You're smiling.
I would say human review and control is one of several factors that's critical for something like this. Again, I think you need strong principles to ensure responsible use all the way from creation to what data you're putting into systems and what systems you're using AI for to what data you're taking out and how you're using it. As you said, for human review, one of those steps on the outside is there should be human cooperation for AI results. It shouldn't just be AI making its own decisions. And we have to know how reliable AI is in certain circumstances. Sometimes it can provide small bits of insight, sometimes it can be very reliable, sometimes it gives a degree and you have to treat it with a bit of skepticism, but also maybe it provides a bit of value. Along those lines, not just human review, but especially trained staff. That's why it's so important for folks that won't just overcome general automation bias. That's the tendency for individuals to always just assume that automated systems tend to work better than humans. That's been documented in many cases. But you need to understand what type of biases or what type of reliability you might want to apply to any given AI system in any situation.
Mr. Amlani, Mr. Lafarouk has said some negative things about facial recognition earlier, I think, if I heard it. Maybe not negative, but concerning. And the fairness, the use of it against large groups, population stuff, law enforcement. What's your thoughts on the reliability of facial recognition? And since this is your field, is there something, I'm aware in my district of a company that has the use of the three-dimensional vasculature in the hand, for example, which apparently, according to them, hasn't failed, but facial recognition has failed. And so what are your thoughts on, because identity, I think you're right, it sort of begins and ends with being able to make sure the person is the person in the system to make sure that, so what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is actually a really important question. From even going back to your prior question about building confidence in individuals and systems in AI, I think it ties to that as well, which is fundamentally, post 9/11, after the terrorist attacks, one of the steps that we did is we actually federalized a workforce and created TSA. Having federal agents at the checkpoints actually made people feel safer to get back on airplanes again. That used to just be a private contracted workforce paid for primarily by the airports and the airlines. But by having federal agents there, it made people feel more comfortable. So these steps are really important to be able to put into place. People do not feel comfortable right now with the identification and authentication steps that are necessary right now to access systems. Passwords are antiquated. People forget passwords. The most secure place to actually store passwords, according to all of the major cybersecurity experts in the field right now, is actually in a personal book that you write with you, because nobody overseas actually is trying to steal your personal book of passwords. They can access your systems. They can steal centralized places where you store passwords, but your book of passwords is something that they have very difficult access to receive. And so leveraging better authentication mechanisms builds confidence in digital tools and capabilities. People have become very comfortable with Face ID to be able to actually secure their systems. People have no confidence in what Ranking Member Thompson mentioned with regards to CAPTCHAs, right? And other silly systems like one-time passcodes that get sent to your phone, which are very easily compromised. And so giving people that confidence with facial matching and facial recognition and facial verification is an important component.
If I can jump in now, because in the time remaining, I have a quick question from Mr. Sikorsky. Data poisoning. How big of a threat is that for the AI systems that are using that data to make very quick decisions, particularly in the defense world? And if we need to go somewhere else to have that conversation, we can postpone it till then. But if you could just real quickly share a few concerns about that, if you have any.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the secure AI by design, right? As we're building out these applications, how are we securing that information? How are we securing the models themselves that make the decisions, as well as the training data that goes there? And there is a lot of research and a lot of thought about what attackers could do if they can manipulate that data, which would then in turn not even necessitate an attack against the technology itself. It's an attack against the underlying data with which it's trained with. And that's definitely a concern that needs to be taken into account and built into as the technology is being built out.